Coast to coast, we've got two hosts to host. Welcome to another episode of the Fivecast Podcast. We're here to break down and examine intricately prepared top 5 lists for your enjoyment. From the tall Sentinel Tower in parts unknown, I'm your host Tyler. And from Second Floor Studios in Hollywood, California, it's Ben Pearson. How you doing, Ben?
How is it hanging, Tyler?
Oh man, it's good coming out of that triple feature of Expendables themed episodes. And
so much testosterone in those episodes.
It was just balls to the wall extreme.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed it. We got huge numbers from those episodes because it may not be because people like us, but they do like Stallone, they do like Schwarzenegger, and the 135 other guys that are in the Expendables. So thank you for joining us. If it's your first time, welcome to the Fivecast. And usually we have a different top 5 list every week, and it can be anything from top 5 movies something, or top 5 music something, or top 5 book something, or what would be another example, Ben?
Top 5 Halloween related things.
Sure.
I don't know. They're not normally as broad as that, but go back through the archives, dig through, find some good stuff. There's plenty of it there. So
some of my favorite episodes, and I was hoping you'd pick this one, is top 5 video games something. And we gave a lot of love to the Nintendo company. You're welcome. I don't think they'd be half as popular as they are today without our help here at the Fivecast. But I want to step away from the Nintendo juggernaut for a second, even though they're making some great products. And they're more than welcome to send us free stuff to review or just play. You have like Hyrule Soldiers or Warriors or something. Oh, what's that called? Anyway, it's like a fighting game for Zelda.
Sort of Zelda thing?
Yeah. Hyrule Warriors. Yeah, that's it. And, you can send us the newest Mario game or whatnot. But there are other video game companies out there, Ben, and I'm not talking about Microsoft. I'm not talking about Sony. Nope. I'm talking about the early 90s, baby. Do you remember that?
I do. I remember that time well.
And there was a little blue guy who looked like a porcupine that was the head honcho over at this video game company, and I know you can guess who it is, Ben.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sonic the Hedgehog over at Sega. And so today we're going to do not top 5 Sega characters, because that's really hard to do. You got Sonic, and that's about it.
Knuckles, Tails, and you're done.
Yeah, but I think we might find a few characters here. In our top 5 Sega Genesis games. Top 5 Sega Genesis games for this week on the Fivecast. Ben, do you want to go ahead and get started?
I am going to start. I'm going to start with my number 5.
5, yeah.
And this game, I'm cheating immediately, Tyler. Because mine is actually a Sega CD game. I don't know.
I think the Genesis.
We've talked about this before, but I also had the Sega Genesis and Sega CD combo.
Yeah. They plugged into each other.
Right. Yes, they did. And Sega CD was like hot shit back in the day. It was capable of holding, a lot more information, and therefore the graphics were a lot better and stuff like that. But the game that is number 5 on my list is called Sewer Shark.
Okay.
This is a very ridiculous game. I'll just read the plot here from Wikipedia. Sewer Shark takes place in a post-apocalyptic future where environmental destruction has forced most of humanity to live underground. The player takes on the role of a rookie pilot in a band of sewer jockeys whose job it is to exterminate dangerous mutated creatures to keep a vast network of sewers clean for Solar City, an island paradise ruled by the evil Commissioner Stenchler. The player's co-pilot, Ghost, evaluates the player's performance throughout the game, while a small robot named Catfish scouts ahead and gives directions. The player is later assisted by Falco, a female jockey who believes that there's a hidden route to the surface.
Do a barrel roll!
Yeah, basically. Falco is captured by Stenchler, who threatens to turn her into one of his mindless minions. But this plot is thwarted when Ghost and the player reach Solar City. Wow. So, spoiler alert for the end of Sewer Shark, you do reach Solar City. I never got that far personally because I was not that good at video games in 1994 when this game came out, or whatever, 1990s or early 90s. But yes, I did love it. It was, like I said, the graphics were a lot better than sort of your standard issue Sonic video game or whatever, because it was it used full motion video for its primary gameplay. So basically,
Oh.
it was like the old uh, like educational videos or anything like that were also interactive. Like I don't know, I'm trying to come up with a good example of one, but just do a YouTube search for Sewer Shark and you'll see what I'm talking about. It was a lot of fun. There's a lot of creatures that would come out at you, and you'd have to, it was like joystick style. You'd have to fight them off. But yeah, this game was a lot of fun. Tyler, have you ever heard of Sewer Shark
I
before?
did. I did not. I didn't get past the Sega Genesis. I didn't get the Sega CD. Didn't get the Sega Saturn or the Sega 32X or anything like
Right.
that.
So there would be no reason for you to know about this game, then.
Exactly. I think full motion video though was such a novelty at the time that most of the like just notoriously bad games had full motion video and little else. So it was just like you kind of just click buttons as a movie happened in front of you.
Yeah.
Was there actual gameplay where you did stuff, or did you just watch stuff happen?
No, the most of the game was actually you like shooting stuff,
Okay.
shooting creatures that came out at you. If memory serves, and again I have not played this since 1993 or whatever. If memory serves, it was basically the same video over and over and over again of tunnels that they had created, where your ship is sort of flying through the tunnels, like that part of the Matrix when the Sentinels are sort
Yeah.
of going through or whatever. It was basically like that, but then a randomized series of alien creatures or mutated creatures or whatever would sort of come up at you or be hanging off various parts of the sewers as you flew through it, and you'd have to shoot them as you
Okay.
passed by.
That
So
sounds pretty sweet.
there was a little bit of interaction there, and yeah, it would go to cutscenes and stuff where it was
Right.
just video with like real actors, in goofy costumes and stuff. But I had a lot of fun with the game
So
there.
you were the shark.
I think Sewer Shark was like your call sign, or
Okay.
it was like the nickname of your ship or of your band of minions who would go through and shoot stuff.
I thought
I
maybe it was
think.
like a sci-fi original movie where you had to go and fight the sewer shark.
Oh no, I don't think there was actually a sewer shark. But like I said, I didn't get
Possible?
to the end of the game, so maybe there was a giant one that emerged at the end that you had to shoot a billion times before it died
Oh
or
my
something.
god, it's sewer bear shark. Reboot is in order, people. Well, that sounds pretty sweet. Sega CD. That yeah, I'll take that because it attaches to the Sega Genesis. I'll count it.
Yes.
Consider yourself lucky, Ben. My number five is a full-on Genesis game, and I got super stoked when this game came out back in 1995. And but it was hard as shit, so I did not get very far in this game. That's why it's in my number five, and that's Comics Zone. Comics, of course, spelled with an X at the end,
I vaguely remember this being
because
on
it
the
was
shelf.
extreme.
So what is the premise of this
Oh,
game?
Sketch Turner, a starving artist and freelance rock musician living in New York
Awesome.
City, is working on his newest comic book named The Comic Zone. Comic Zone is the story of the New World Empire's attempt to defend Earth from an invasion of alien renegades, with inspiration coming from Sketch's oddly vivid dreams and nightmares. One night, while Sketch is working on Comic Zone during a thunderstorm, a lightning bolt strikes a panel of his comic, and in this instant, the main villain of Comic Zone, a powerful mutant named Mortis, manages to escape the comic book's pages, desiring to kill Sketch so he can become flesh and blood and take over the real world. Because he does not possess any power in reality, Mortis sends Sketch into the world of his comic, freely drawing in enemies attempting to kill him. So you kind of travel through these comic panels, and there's always this hand that comes up and like draws mini bosses and little
Hmm.
things that you fight with. And I think you have like a friend rat that comes and helps you out every once in a while for
Nice.
because it's the 90s.
Splinter. Yep.
Ridiculous pet. And this game is really hard. It just gets ridiculous. I don't remember like the gameplay mechanics being very difficult. It was just a lot of enemies and you died real easily and you got game over right away and you had to start from the very beginning. But
Oh,
I
jeez.
I remember like the little cutscenes were like really dark and it's like post-apocalyptic, and the guy, the evil villain's trying to kill you, is pretty scary. So
Hmm.
I give it a good thumbs up. If I ever got my hands on a Sega Genesis in the near future, I'd probably try to play this game once again. So
Okay.
a lasting memory there. Comics Zone.
Pretty cool.
Towards the end of the Sega family, I guess, 1995, it was probably moving towards the. They were trying all that stuff like the Sega CD, but they were moving into other like Sega Saturn stuff.
Yeah.
And of course the Dreamcast eventually, late 90s.
On their way to the garbage bin.
So that's. Did you remember seeing this, but you never played it?
Yeah, I remember the cover and sort of the some of the
extreme,
art
right?
associated with it. Yes, but I never did get a chance to play it myself. So that's a good one. I feel like for episodes like these, I almost feel like going out and buying a Sega Genesis and just like playing through these games again just to get a sense of what you're talking about. But I'm too lazy to do that. So hopefully our listeners actually, some gamers out there still have their old Sega Genesis and
Right.
go through and buy these games for like a penny now.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's all hipster now. Like it's cool to play old video games, so the prices go up
and stuff. Yeah.
Well, instead of getting a Genesis, though, you could actually get one of these modern, like people will manufacture. They'll replicate the actual hardware, so you could get a system that plays Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and Sega Genesis games all in the same little box.
Nice.
Because technology's gone so advanced that you can just shrink the old systems down to a very, very small area.
That's cool.
Yeah, so pretty cool. Ben, moving on, number 4.
All right, my number 4 is Vector Man.
Ooh.
I don't know if you know this game, Tyler,
I do. Vector Man 1 and 2.
I only played the first one, but I had a lot of fun with it. It came out in 1995. Basically, you're playing as an Orbot, a mechanical Orbot, who is just made up of these sort of floating orbs that vaguely form an anthropomorphic creature, and you can shoot energy blasts out of your hand. I never really got into the story too much. I never really understood what was happening. I guess I was so young that I just didn't care. I was more sort of fascinated with just the physical mechanics of the gameplay instead of like, oh, tell me about this, the mythology of this universe and stuff.
Yeah, most video games just started up on a level and you were like, yeah, I know how to do this, and you just shoot at things.
Yeah, basically. And I think there were like robotic arms with little guns and maybe like there were like floating televisions, and obviously in the Mario games there's like the question boxes. This game had the equivalent of that, but it was basically just like floating televisions that you would shoot, and they would spin so fast that they would eventually blow up. It was sort of a I don't know, I guess it was like an anti I don't know what you would call it, an anti-telecommunications game in some ways, because
maybe
you destroy all these TV related things.
Even though the Orbot is technology.
Right, yeah, which, irony all over the place. But I guess apparently the game uses, I'm reading from Wikipedia again, pre-rendered 3D models in its level and character designs. Pretty cool, and it gives it a smooth computer-generated feel.
I think they did that with Donkey Kong Country. I remember them doing that pre-rendered something. Yeah,
but this is this is basically just a sort of straightforward, like you were saying, like a 2D, like one side to the other, it just drops you in and you go kind of thing. It's all intuitive, like you know what to do, you know what's happening. There are a couple power-ups that I remember, one of which was a triple fire gun where you could shoot, obviously, three energy blasts instead of one. That was always extremely helpful. But yeah, I mean, I don't remember the ins and outs of this game. I just remember really liking it a lot as a kid, and that's sort of there you go. That's why it's my number 4.
Yeah, I have the Sega Classics game on PlayStation 2, and Vector Man 1 and 2 are both on there. So
sweet.
I have yet to get to them. I'm still trying to work through 1942.
Okay.
Which is just a shooter, like space shooter, except you're an airplane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember playing Vector Man at a friend's house and kind of getting bored because I died way more often than I survived.
Yeah.
So, F you, Vector Man. My number 4 is a franchise game. Not really. It's a video game version of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie. Ben, have you played this one? Have you seen this movie?
What is it?
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, the video game.
The game, of course.
No, I just put the Power Rangers movie into my Sega Genesis list.
I think I did play this. I think I did play this one. Yeah,
This
I'm gonna have to look
game's
it up and see if I can
sweet.
see some screenshots of it. But tell me about it.
I the Wikipedia page has it on Super Nintendo, but it was also on Sega, the Sega Genesis. And I want to say that it had a couple levels from the movie, but then you as you progress through the levels, I guess they didn't have enough levels to make from the movie, so they said, oh well, here's some levels from the show. And so you would play through some levels from the episodes that you'd watch. And I was a huge fan of the show, a huge fan of the movie, and
Yep.
this was like dream come true kind of stuff. There was like little hideaways, like little secrets. Like if you punched a mountain, a door would open,
Oh wow.
and you could find like an alternate level. And, the Zords were there and all that stuff. So this was a really badass game. One of the few games in the history of my video game life that I could beat.
Nice.
And yeah, I was really happy that a Power Ranger game came out like this. A lot of them kind of suck.
Yeah.
One of my honorable mentions is the first Power Rangers game, where it's like a fighting game, like a Mortal Kombat game.
Okay.
But this one was like a beat 'em up, so you're just walking down, and guys approach, and you just punch them.
Awesome.
So pretty easy, like a Double Dragon kind of thing. And
Cool.
I would suggest, again, if you get a Sega Genesis and you love Power Rangers, get this game, because I think it's the best one out there.
Nice.
I don't think they've made a good game since, Power Rangers wise.
Wow.
If you differ on that opinion, write us, please. 5caspodcast@gmail.com.
Okay.
So check it out. Ben, any thoughts on the Power Rangers?
None.
Check out episode 32 with me and James Williams. We go deep, we go geek deep on the Power Rangers
there you
franchise.
go.
He may be coming back soon, folks, for another Power Rangers list. So shoot us your ideas. Ben, number 3.
My number 3 is Earthworm Jim 2.
Boosh.
I never played the first one, but
Okay.
I very, very much enjoyed the second one. This was actually a game where I played Little League Baseball, and my parents were, always trying to encourage me to do well in sports and stuff. I was never like in some sort of like oppressive situation where they were like lording over me, like you better do well, blah blah blah. But they would offer like incentives, like if I did. The example that I'm getting to is they said if you hit a home run, you can like pick. We'll give you a new Sega Genesis game, and you can just like pick anyone you want, kind of thing. So I did end up hitting a home run, and I picked Earthworm Jim 2, and I did not regret my decision. This game is very ridiculous. I don't know if you guys know anything about the Earthworm Jim franchise. If not, definitely check it out. This one was good because it had this character named Snot, which was like a parachute slash whip slash all-purpose sidekick that Earthworm Jim carried around, who, by the way, is an earthworm in a human suit.
Yeah.
With like a space gun, basically. It
One of
is,
the best
like I
games
said,
ever.
a ludicrous concept, but I had a lot of fun with this. And you could use it as a rope. You could swing around and float with it. There were parts where you would turn into like a salamander and listen to this really like classical music as you sort of floated through random parts of the level, like without touching the walls or something. It was like the equivalent of like what is the game, like Operation or something like that, but video game style.
I think you were inside the suit at that point.
Oh, you were?
I want to say you were, because I remember that level, and that was hard as shit.
Yeah, it was tough.
And I think it was inside the suit because it was just Earthworm Jim floating around.
Right.
Like just the worm version without his suit, because I think he was inside the suit.
Oh, and I just remember there was also this awesome part in this game where it was something about babies. They would throw babies at you, and you would have to catch it and like bounce them off of trampolines or something like that.
Yeah,
it was so crazy.
Yeah, the lady would throw the babies out the window, and you had to like bounce it off a pillow or something, and then put it safely somewhere. But if you missed, it just exploded on the ground.
Yes. And the babies just died, and this woman is hurling babies out of a window. What kind of game is this for children?
It's extreme, man.
Yeah.
I used to get in so much trouble. I remember one time I got in trouble. My mom was like, "Did you do your homework?" And I go, "No, I was playing Earthworm Jim." Like, damn it! I remember that was the game I was playing.
Nice.
The good times. Yeah, I played both 1 and 2, and I think Earthworm Jim's on my list somewhere.
Cool.
So yeah, that's a great game. If you never mind. I'm not going to advertise that just yet. My number 3 is this is going way back in the Sega library, Genesis library, and that's Road Rash. Do you remember playing this motorcycle classic?
This one I saw a bunch of people play, but I never played myself. It seemed pretty simple, and I think there were versions of it at like local arcades, but where you would actually physically get on a, like one of those fake motorcycles and like lean left and right kind of thing.
Right.
Because that's all the game was, right? It was just there wasn't like any you didn't shoot anybody or do anything like that. It was just like strictly racing, right?
Oh no. You could definitely punch people and like whip them with chains.
Oh, the chain. This is the chain game. Okay, yeah. I remember.
So the tracks in the game depict California state routes on highway shields as the player travels through the level. The levels are from start and pressing right: Sierra Nevada, the Pacific Coast, the Redwood Forest, the Palm Desert, and Grass Valley. Ben, you're from California. Do any of those sound familiar?
I'm not from California. I live in California.
Well, that's what I meant.
Well, no, none of those.
Okay. And you could whip people with your chain, or you could punch them and kick them, and then they'd fall off. I think cars were flying by, so you could sometimes just hit dead on a car and just die. Like your character would fly like way away from your motorcycle, and then you had to run back to your bike. And so me and my brother would often just get off. If we crashed and we were like in last place or whatever, we would just start huffing it like without our bike. Mm-hmm. And we'd go however long, but your bike had never left you. Like your bike wasn't as far away as you thought it was. Okay. So if you just let go and stopped running, the bike would be right there that you could just pick it up. Yeah. Nice. So it was pretty stupid of us to just run, because you could have just easily got back on the motorcycle. Right. But hours of fun, because I think it might have come with the system when we got it. Mm-hmm. So it was one of the few games that we owned. Yeah. And so if you own a game, clearly, if there are no good games at the movie store, you had to go with the homebrew and play Road Rash over and over again. I'd still play that game if I had it. Man, that is tight.
Good stuff.
Ben, where are we at? Number two? Number 2.
All right, Tyler, my number 2, I'm super excited about this one. This is Sonic the Hedgehog CD, again with the Sega CD games. This one is one of my favorite video games, I'm going to say ever. Like if we were to make an overall top 5, it's not too different from the typical 2D side-scroller version of Sonic, which I love. There's just something simple about that game that I'm a really big fan of. I'm not sure if it's on your list or not. Don't tell me. We'll get there. Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe not. Okay. But this game, because it utilizes the CD aspect, it has like sort of a 3D effect in certain points, which was mind blowing at the time. And I remember it being like the same sense of amazement and wonder that one might have had when they first saw the Nintendo 64 or even the Dreamcast, which I thought was a big deal at the time. I remember feeling that with Sonic CD, because the camera sort of stays behind Sonic as he's running, which is a view that you never got to see before, and you get to see sort of what's coming up. You have like it's just a typical hovering third-person view, but that was like a mind-blowing concept for a Sonic game, because you could actually see sort of what was coming. You could jump and like destroy these sort of robot creatures that would jump up here and there. Yeah. You could navigate left and right on the same roadway, if you will, instead of just in the 2D. You're only working on one plane basically, and there's no variation there. But this one, man, this was such a cool game, and I remember playing the shit out of this game back in the day.
Yeah, I would play constantly Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Like for some reason, that was the only game I could get my hands on from the Sonic series. Mm-hmm. And I mean, eventually Sonic and Knuckles came around, where you could plug in Sonic the Hedgehog 2 into the Sonic and Knuckles cartridge.
Oh wow!
And then you could play as Knuckles in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And then there were all these codes that you could, like cheat codes you could type in to become like Golden Sonic on level 1.
There,
So I would
yes.
constantly do that. But yeah, I never played the Sonic CD version.
And there's actually, Tyler, I want you to specifically watch it, but I hope our listeners take the time to check this out too. If you go to YouTube and just type in, I think it's probably something like Sonic CD opening, like or intro or something like that. There's probably like a 2 or 3 minute video intro to the game, where I think what happened was when you turn the game on, it would be like the start menu, and if you didn't touch anything for a minute or two, the screen would fade and this intro video would play, and it is awesome. Like there's a song called Sonic Boom that I don't know who the artist, but it is it's like pretty freaking sweet. It's
Nice.
very 90s, very cheesy, but the image is like Sonic just like running through the forest or whatever, and then he sees Dr. Robotnik's ship like just hanging in the air, hovering, and he's like, "Oh shit!" And he basically, he goes into like that roll mode that he does, and he like launches himself down a mountain that has a perfectly curved um
Oh, of
like
course.
ramp basically, and he like comes out of the roll mode with his arms spread and just like chest forward flying at like 1,000,000 miles an hour up to this spaceship thing. I just remember thinking like that was the most badass thing for a video game character to do. And again, keep in mind this was 1993, so
Right.
um, yeah.
Ben, do you know if Sonic likes to run fast? Is that something he enjoys?
Oh, you bet your ass he
Yeah,
does.
he goes fast. I like to go fast. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't. Sonic might be in my final two. Who knows?
Okay, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, let's. Maybe we could do top 5 Sonic games someday because there's so many.
Mm, man, Sonic CD would be up there for me for sure.
Yeah, up there in your Sonic Hedgehog. My number 2 is a little known game that me and my brother used to play. We actually rented this one fateful Thanksgiving weekend and never played it again.
Wow.
And it wasn't until last year where, of course, I had forgotten the name of it. I couldn't tell you anything about it, but I just remember it being really fun. And I was like trying to explain to people. I was like, "Oh yeah, you play like this guy and you shoot a lot, and then there's like a board game." And then people are like, "I don't know what the fuck you're talking about." But eventually, I saw a video online. Somebody was reviewing it, and it's called Gunstar Heroes. Ben, have you ever heard of this one?
I've never heard of that.
Oh, it's so much fun. You play as one of 2 characters. They're basically the same. And each one, you can like set up how their gun is going to work. So you can either have like a fire-based gun or a laser-based gun or something like that. And then you can also choose how it shoots. And so there's like 2 variations on it. And then throughout the levels, you can pick up like and switch out the kind of gun you have. So you
Hmm.
could at one point, like if you pick 2 laser beam upgrades, you get like a lightsaber. Or
Oh
if you
wow.
pick the laser beam upgrade and the seeker upgrade, like you can shoot lasers and they find enemies automatically. So
Holy
if
crap.
it's one of the games where you just walk and hold the button down and just everything starts blowing up. Like I was playing it recently on the PlayStation 3 and so much was going on, like it was slowing down. I was like, holy shit. But it's a really fun game. I think I'm trying to beat the last level on it, which is proving fairly difficult. But it's a really fun game. Gunstar Heroes, check it out. It's I don't know if my brother remembers it, but it was like Thanksgiving and family was in town, so I of course went up to my room to play video games.
Yep, there you go.
And I'm glad we've reunited. That's all I have to say. I'm glad we
Okay.
reunited. Check it out, Ben.
And be a
Gunstar Heroes.
Star Hero.
Gunstar Heroes. Got secret lasers in my eyes. Ben, we're there. It's
We
time for a mini 5. What?
Oh.
U-turn. You thought we
Oh.
were gonna go to the number? Oh, baby.
Nice.
You know, we're going to the number 1 eventually, but I want to do a little mini 5 first, Ben.
Take me there.
These are top 5, the mini 5, top 5 Sega Genesis games I want to complete. I want to play all the way through. I have not played them before, or I haven't played them all the way through. This mini 5 is actually brought to you by The Completionist, which is what his show does. He just plays a video game all the way through, does everything that you can think of. All the upgrades, all the rewards. I don't know. It's crazy that someone actually does that.
And by brought to you by, you mean it's
of
just
course,
a shout out.
he knows nothing about our show.
Right.
I've had no contact with him, although he has favorited a few of my messages to him. So Ben, you know who that is.
Close personal friend and confidant.
Close personal friend and confidant. You can find season 4 of The Completionist over at youtube.com/thatonevideogamer. Number 5, Ben, Wolverine, Adamantium Rage. Number 4, Mickey Mania, The Timeless Adventures of Mickey Mouse. I remember playing that and not getting past level 1, so gotta go back and complete it. Number 3, Battletoads and Double Dragon, Together at Last.
Sweet.
Remember playing it with a good friend of the show, Jared, and Panther Joe, but did not complete it, so got to play that some more. Number 2, RoboCop versus the Terminator, Ben.
No way.
This was a video game that I saw sit on the shelf at freaking Movie Gallery on the Super Nintendo, which I did not have. I only have the Sega Genesis. Wanted to play that so bad. I would have sold the shirt off my back and a lot more to play this game. And I just recently saw that it was on the Sega Genesis, so I in hindsight wished so much that Movie Gallery had this game on Sega.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I would have stolen it from them. So yeah, RoboCop versus the Terminator, and number 1, The Death and Return of Superman. So when that famous comic came out in the early 90s, they made a video game, which I remember playing. I remember dying on the first level, like you're supposed to die because Superman dies, and then throughout the rest of the game, you play as Steel, Superboy, the Exterminator, whatever, the Clint Eastwood Superman, and then the Cyborg Superman. So I didn't get to those levels, I don't think, but that sounds like a really awesome game that I need to go back to, and that's my number 1.
Historically, Superman games are really, really terrible, though, so you probably dodged a bullet on that one.
I remember this one being fairly entertaining. I think it was also on the arcade machines. I'd play it there too.
Oh, okay, all right.
So yeah, that's another installment of the Mini 5.
Sweet.
Or whatever that sound is. All right, so now that we have that out of the way, Ben, did you enjoy that?
I did, yes.
All right. We're about to enjoy your number 1.
Oh, yeah. 1995. Man, 95 was a good year for the games on our lists this 5cast. X-Men 2 Clone Wars. Tyler, do you know this game?
I do. I believe I played it once, if not twice.
This one...
in the history?
This was one of those games that I rented multiple times. It was like I may as well have bought it because I spent so much money renting it.
Right.
And back in the day, it was only probably like $2 or $3 or something to rent it. But and I assume the games were 20 or 30 or 40 or whatever at the time. But yeah, I rented this one from Blockbuster so many times that I definitely paid for it, if not twice over. Again, an X-Men game. It is freaking fantastic. It's one of the best X-Men games. Actually, I think I'm going to go as far as to say it's the best X-Men game that I've ever played because I haven't played too many X-Men games that are in the modern, the current gen, if you will, or even the previous gen, because I guess technically the current gen now is Xbox One and PlayStation 4, which I've barely even touched. But even, the PS3, Xbox 360 era, I've not played any sort of X-Men related stuff.
Hey, hey Sony, hey Microsoft, if you want to send us a couple of
yeah, just
Xbox Ones and
by the way, expect nothing in return.
Right.
Not even. I mean, okay. I guess maybe I'll write you a thank you letter. That's about it.
We might review one of the X-Men games that come out on your system.
Sure.
So help us out with that. Thank you.
Yep, that'll be nice. Care of Ben Gibson. Yeah, basically the game you had Beast, Psylocke, Gambit, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, and Cyclops, and they were basically and Magneto was in there too occasionally, and you would have to. It was a 2D side scroller. And you had to utilize their specific powers to do better things, So like Nightcrawler, for example, would be really great at certain parts of the game because he could teleport, and you could actually physically go through walls and carry. I remember playing it 2-player a couple times with my sister, and she would be another character and I would be Nightcrawler, and as long as I was standing right next to her, or basically on top of her in the 2D version, and teleported somewhere, you could bring that person with you.
Oh.
So, and the game was like, there was, if I remember right, there were a lot of sort of maze-esque areas where it took a lot to sort of figure out ultimately where you're supposed to be going, and you had to fight a ton of people throughout. But a lot of it was just like physically traversing the actual levels and figuring out. You could get lost basically fairly often. But with Nightcrawler in particular, that problem seemed to go away because you could just teleport through some smaller walls. He also had a better jump kick attack than anybody else, so I remember that working out to my favor. Wolverine, obviously, he could go into like his freaking what is that called?
Adamantium Rage.
Berserker Rage thing. But I did like Cyclops a lot because I've always been a big fan of Cyclops, even though he's traditionally the most sort of boring of the X-Men, but I like his power a lot, and he's been depicted as sort of a douchebag in a lot of the movies and comics and stuff like that. But I'm a Cyclops fan. I'll go on the record with that.
Yeah.
But you got some Gambit in there, man. There was it was like the best of the best for the characters that I cared about from watching the show in the 90s,
right?
And then actually being able to just turn the show off and then shove X-Men 2 Clone Wars in the Genesis and jump back into that story and play with those actual characters was it didn't get any better than that for me as far as video games went on the Sega Genesis. So that is my number one.
I love the X-Men, and I played every X-Men game that I could get my hands on, so I'm right there with you. I don't remember this one. I can't remember. I played so many. I know I played.
You would really like this one.
I played the arcade version. I played, I think, a lot of Sega X-Men games. I know Nintendo X-Men games. And then, of course, you can go back into the 5Cast archives, episode 16, Top 5 X-Men. I can't remember what that episode was called. I want to say, who cares? But, yeah, check it out, X-Men 2. I think that was a sequel to another, yeah. It's kind of weird how the Clone Wars not only happens in the X-Men universe, but also in the Star Wars universe. So, possible X-Men Star Wars crossover game on Xbox One. Send us your Xboxes, please. My number one, Ben, is, again, Earthworm Jim.
Oh, nice.
I'm going to include 1 and 2 there because I enjoyed playing both of them. And I think we already pretty much talked about that at length.
Yep.
And I don't think we have any more to say about Earthworm Jim.
What was the difference between 1 and 2? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Did they both sort of blur together because you had both of them?
They blurred together, and exactly. It was like Never Ending Story and Never Ending Story Part 2. I could never tell the difference. I was like, oh, this must be the same movie, but it was actually 2 movies, and I was an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like like I said, I never played the first one, but for some reason in my mind, the difference is that Snot is around in the second one, but he wasn't there in the first one for some reason.
I don't think he was in the first one. I think it was just the novelty was you in a suit, and you were an earthworm in a suit like that.
I wonder if you had to save babies in the first one.
Maybe. I do remember that level. That must have been from 2 then.
Yeah. Definitely.
But yeah, that freaking level where you're just the worm inside the swimming suit or whatever, and there's all these the phalange, that used to just piss me off.
Yeah, and I think it was like Bach or Beethoven or something like that was playing in the background. It was like that. Man, I can't remember the actual song right now off the top of my head, but it's one of those like classical pieces.
Right.
It reminded me of haunted my dreams while I was playing this game.
It reminded me of a Nintendo version of the Ninja Turtles game where at some point you were in a sewer trying to swim and there was like electrical phalange that would kill you if you swam too close to them. So yeah, that was a common game aspect in some of the games.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, we'll piss off people. We'll make it harder by just creating these very narrow caverns that they can't swim through. Ben, time for some honorable mentions. Do you have any?
No, I'm sure I'll come up with some as you or agree with yours as you list yours.
I got the Sonic and Knuckles, as I mentioned, like playing as Knuckles because he could fly and climb walls and stuff.
Yeah, that was cool.
Columns, which is the Sega version of Tetris, I guess.
Okay.
We got that one with the system as well, so we had always had that on hand. And then like I already mentioned the kind of Mortal Kombat style Mighty Morphin Power Rangers game where you could choose any of the Power Rangers. And then if you played through the whole game, you unlocked the Green Ranger and the Dragon Zord.
Sweet.
And then yep. Destroy the factory and thousands of lives every time he comes out of the ocean. And then you would fight. The only thing I regret was you would play through the whole game, and they'd grow big, and you'd play as the Megazord or whatever. But then at the very end, you would see the Ultra Zord destroy Rita Repulsa's castle.
Wow.
Like, I always wanted to play as the Ultra Zord in the actual game, but it left you hanging on a few things, so I guess that's why I was so excited about the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie game, because you got to do a lot more in that particular game. So
I actually
have them together.
I do have two honorable mentions that I just came up with. One of which is NBA Live 95.
Oh, hell yeah.
Which was a really, really fantastic basketball game for the time.
Yes.
And I used to play with the Orlando Magic, had a lot of fun with that. Also, Barkley Shut Up and Jam, which I didn't get into until much later, probably 10 or 15 years after the game came out in '94. But no, that's not true. That's not true because that's only 1994 was 20 years ago. That's crazy.
Yeah, get used to it, buddy.
Maybe that is true. So yeah, anyway, I didn't come to that one until, probably like around college or something as like sort of a retro, like a throwback kind of experience. But that one I had a lot of fun with. And then also the, I think it was the Batman. There was a Batman video game. Do you remember? Did you play any Batman Sega games? It might have been Batman Forever.
I know I played Batman Returns and Batman Forever on the Sega Genesis.
I think the one I'm thinking of is Batman Forever, and you could throw batarangs and stuff, and the graphics were a little bit better than the previous versions. Also, the Aladdin Sega Genesis game, I remember being, infuriating because of how difficult it was near the end, but pretty good. Solid. So
I played that quite often, but I also knew the code on how to skip levels.
Oh, sweet.
So if I got pissed, I would just I think I beat the game in 2 minutes because I just skipped all the levels. I was horrible at that. I kind of wish I hadn't known that because I could have actually been good at the game, but suck it.
Yep.
Ben, we've crunched the numbers. That's the end of the show.
It is.
Where can the listeners find you on the internet?
You can find me at twitter.com/BenPairs. That's actually the best place to track me down. So
yeah, do it.
Tweet me, do it.
Tweet me. Take 5, people. We'll see you next time. Clean out your cartridges. Bye, Ben.
Take 5.